And there's the bell. Welcome back to week 3 of the GI Joe vs. Cobra Team Challenge series. We have a great matchup here today as the brother and sister duo of Zartan and Zarana will take on Lady J and Flint. Lady J has Zarana throw her across the ring. This is a mixed tag, so every time a tag is made to the opposite sex, then their opponent of the same sex will come in. There will be no male versus female in this matchup. And there's the tag. Flint comes in and goes after Zartan. Zartan with a sleeper hold. A sleeper hold locked in the corner. Flint able to get out. Flint, Lady J, they were kind of somewhat of an item in the GI Joe cartoon. I think they kind of came on in the mid, I want to say after 85, 86-ish. As Flint goes for the cover on Zartan. You know, there were the OGs of G.I. Joe, of which Duke was a member. Duke was kind of the leader. You had other leaders, like General Flag and Hawk, but Duke was kind of the weekly, every episode type leader. I'm probably butchering this for real, authentic, true, hardcore G.I. Joe fans. I am doing this more out of nostalgia and my memory. Unfortunately, a quick Google search may have done me some good on some of these matchups. I'm just going off of my memory. And some of it's great, some of it's not. If you ask me about 1986 wrestling, I could probably write a book. You ask me about 1986 G.I. Joe, and I'm kind of just remembering what I remember. But Flint and Lady J, kind of a couple. You kind of had Duke and Scarlet. You had Lady J and Flint. You had, was it Falcon, Lieutenant Falcon, and Jinx. So you had a couples. Destro Baroness, for example, they were kind of a couple. So interesting stuff with the G.I. Joe series. And of course you had Zartan, who was the leader of the Dreadnoughts, which I always thought was one of the coolest groups within G.I. Joe. You know, just what's better than a group of thugs who wears jeans and cut-off vests? I mean, I don't know. You know, they all had their cool looks to them, their cool appearances. Some had mohawks and ponytails, etc. And of course, Zartan, Zarana, and their brother, I can't remember his name, but he's also in the G.I. Joe vs. Cobra Team Challenge series. Xandar. They all changed colors if they were in the sun for too long, I believe. Something along those lines. They changed colors. A bluish tint. And of course, Zartan, the master of disguise, he could dress up as G.I. Joe members and infiltrate the G.I. Joe headquarters. So just Zartan was one of my favorite. I mean, there are a lot of favorites in this show. Zartan was a cool member, and of course he was the leader of the Dreadnoughts. Wasn't a huge fan of Flint and Lady J. I was more of a Duke and Scarlet guy myself, but Flint and Lady J got the movie treatment love when the G.I. Joe vs. Cobra Retaliation came out. Again, those movies, they weren't horrible, but they just did so many disservices to the G.I. Joe franchise. And again, I'm not the hardcore of hardcore G.I. Joe fans. This is something I'm doing for distraction because of my nostalgia of the 80s. I liked G.I. Joe as a kid. I love wrestling. But the movies took some liberties as Lady J goes for a cover on Zarana, who makes it to the ropes. I'm going to probably butcher this, but I think Zarana also had a romantic relationship with a member of G.I. Joe. There was some feelings there. I think it was dial tone. It's either dial tone or lifeline. I think it was dial tone. And that was one of the cool things about the cartoons back in the day, is that it was great storytelling, you know, and you remember stuff like that. You can like somebody, you can love somebody who may not be a quote-unquote good guy or a good girl. And it was just cool, you know, as a 10 and 11-year-old kid in the 80s growing up, that you could get those lessons from a cartoon. You know, it was, fun stuff. Is Zartan back in the ring? Oh, Flint with a nice roll-up here has Zartan pinned, and a kick out at 1. Back into the ring. Lady J slamming the head of Zarana into her knee. Dukes and jives in the ring, but Zarana catches her with a knee to the face. Fiercely in control, he stomps to the back, lines her up. Oh, it misses. Zarana moved out of the way. I would like a movie to come out with GI Joe where they were more true to the outfits of the 80s. I recently watched the GI Joe movie, Rise of Cobra, and Cobra Commander looked nothing like Cobra Commander in the cartoon. Zarana on top 2, and a kick out at 2 by Lady J. Now, GI Joe Retaliation, Cobra Commander looked more acceptable. They had the iron mask, the masked Cobra Commander versus the hooded Cobra Commander. And that looked pretty realistic. And of course, you had The Rock as Roadblock, which was more or less guy in camouflage and a tank top, which The Rock pretty much rocked out in. And then you had Flint, who was more or less in camouflage, so they were easy to be true to. But I'd love to see Shipwreck in G.I. Joe, you know, a sailor outfit fighting on the streets in sailor outfit as Flint goes to recover, and Zartan with a kick out of 2. Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, they were pretty spot on, of course, with their outfits in the movies, but I would love to see just some, like, I mean, I'm talking cheese, but I would love to see some current movie with the 80s outfits as close as they could make it. And I would just love to see that. I have not seen the Snake Eyes origin story of G.I. Joe yet. As Flint ties Zartan up in the Tree of Woe and stomping away for good measure. This has been a back and forth match, a much needed 5 points for G.I. Joe to get back on the winning track. Cobra has a slight advantage here in the Team Challenge Series so far. A Zartan Superman punch goes to recover 1, 2, and a kick out of 2 by Flint. Zartan makes a tag, the ladies are back in. Zarana with a kick to the midsection, setting her up. Is it a pedigree? It is a pedigree in the middle of the ring. Rolls over Lady J, this might be over. Hooks the leg, 1. Flint can't break up the count because it would be man on woman. And Zartan and Zarana pick up the victory. Nicely done. A wise move on the part of Zartan to tag in his sister, because he knew Flint could not kick out, and there is the updated score as Cobra takes a 10-point lead. Fans, we'll be back tomorrow with some more G.I. Joe vs. Cobra Team Challenge Series. Goodbye, everybody.